Hi guys, this is the first video in a series of devlog videos for my third game, which is called Toasty Tumble, and this is the first game that I've developed with the Unity engine. Now, what I find is that because of my kind of like working schedule, I tend to concentrate my development furiously over a few days. And whilst I'm doing that, I don't have time really to kind of edit the videos. So I've got a load of footage recorded, but it's too much to kind of put into one video. I'm going to split it up into a series of small videos, which I'm just then going to post out over the next few days. So please bear in mind when you're watching the video that the actual game has progressed further than the videos. In other words, the videos are kind of behind in real life. So this one, because it's done in Unity, I'm able to make it browser playable. So I've already uploaded a playable version to itch. Now at the time of recording this, it's not anywhere near complete, but it is playable, though the chances are that by the time this is actually posted to YouTube, there'll be more features in it. So I'll put a link in the description of the video to the itch page, so you can just go and play it directly in the browser. Obviously the game's free. Now if you want to kind of be up to date on in things kind of in more real time, then you can follow me on Blue Sky, Mastodon or X. I just post updates daily on there, but the videos are always going to be a little bit kind of behind. All right, okay, thank you very much. Let's get up to it. I'm ready to start building my very first game in Unity. I've decided to go with Flappy Bird, and for my version I'm going to do a kind of a kitchen based theme. So the hero that you control is going to be a piece of toast. So I found some artwork on VectEasy. This is quite good. Their free license allows it to be used in a digital product with up to 10,000 views. I don't think I'm going to be reaching that, so that's fine. So I've used this art set here, and I've been taking various objects from there to make sort of kitchen objects from. So all I've done so far, I'm just setting up the artwork at the moment. I haven't written a single line of code yet, which is really quite a strange way to do things, but it's so much easier. So for my background elements, I've just got the splashback, which is actually just a single tile. This graphic was supposed to be a bar of chocolate, but I've just taken one tile out of it, stretched it a bit, and then just tiled that across. This is supposed to be like a countertop, and then that black bar at the top is where I'm going to have utensils. So the idea is that on the bottom you're going to have these kind of objects. If I actually put some of these in my scene, I've actually created some prefabs. So this is what I've been spending most of my time doing. So, you know, I can just like drop in some items here. These are going to be instantiated programmatically, of course, but what I've been spending quite a bit of time doing is kind of like setting up different kind of colliders on the object, so it will give it a kind of a nice collision shape. So this one is slightly more complex, so that's got a box collider for this part, and then a couple of capsule colliders there. This one, I think, what was that one? Oh, it's just got two. Yeah, so that one's got a capsule collider and a box collider, whereas I've got a wok object, and obviously I can, you know, I can just make these any old size. You know, I can just like change these. See that one? Yeah, for whatever kind of size I want. This one's just a simple box collider. So at the moment I'm just kind of like setting up all the prefabs just kind of ready. So this is how it would look in game, and then the idea is you're going to have some if I come back to this art set, I could only download a few images because I'm on the free plan, so I can only download a few images. I'll have to download some more tomorrow. But I'm going to want things like utensils like this, the machete, the whisk, maybe like the knife out of that image, possibly a rolling pin, these kinds of things. And those objects will hang down from the top, and then these objects are going to be on the countertop at sort of like various kind of positions in there. And so your piece of toast is going to be sort of like bouncing in the middle of that, you know, trying to avoid all the obstacles. And I'm probably going to put in maybe like some just like random bits of food or something floating around the kitchen for no particular reason. And if you like catch them, you score points, because obviously this is different to the regular Flappy Bird where you have a specific set of pipes, and every time you pass the pipe you score a point. Because these are all going to be different shapes and sizes, it won't be as easy to do that. So I thought instead I'll have it kind of pickup based. So I'll instantiate various things in the center of the scene, and you have to kind of like try and guide your piece of toast to collect those, and that's how you score points. Maybe I'll have the odd power up, like an extra life or something like that. But yeah, that's just going to be the basics of the game. So at the moment, all I'm doing is just working out the artwork. I have not created a single line of code yet. I haven't even created a script. So the next thing I'm going to do is probably try to get a bit of toast on there for a player, set some physics on it, have it be able to collide with these objects statically. Maybe I'll have it just so I can just move it and just check that the collision works, and then I'll try moving things around. So that is it for the artwork at the moment. I ended up changing the graphics I was using for the artwork. I didn't like the toast things there, so I've got this like an ordinary bit of toast, and then I've got burnt toast, and this is going to kind of signify you've been toasted, like you've died. So I've got the basic player in the game. I've given it a rigid body with some gravity, and then I've got the first little bit of code in here. So on the player, it responds to a jump, and for the collision, all I've done so far is this brown area is like the countertop, and that's fine because there's going to be objects in there, but I've just in here I've created something called a dead zone, which is literally just a collider down here, and this is tagged with obstacles. So all of the obstacles are going to have the obstacle tag, and so I can actually play this now. All I've done is I've just put in a console message if you hit it. Why is that not playing? So now I have, the beginnings of a Flappy Bird, and then if I let it drop down here, toasted as soon as it hits that part. So I've got the beginnings. So what I want to do next is start putting some actual objects into the screen. Now, one thing I'm going to have to fiddle around with quite a bit is the kind of like the sizing of the prefabs, because so this grey bar kind of represents a utility. So if I put in, I have changed, like the knife is flipped up the other way. So I would probably want them like, all kind of like hanging from the rack. So they're not going to change in kind of like their size or position, whereas the ones at the bottom, I could put those at different points within the counter. But if I do something like this, that's obviously too big, that there's just not going to be enough room in there. So I'm going to have to sort of like muck around with sort of how big I want these actual objects. Like the knife, that might be a little bit too big. You might just make that a little bit smaller. So yes, I'm going to have to kind of like fiddle around with this kind of stuff. So I think what I might do is just kind of experiment with having different combos of utilities, because what I've got is I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I've got 7 of each. I've got 7 obstacles which are going to hang down from the top utensil rack, and then it should be also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 which are going to be on the countertop. So 7 for the bottom, 7 from the top. But I don't want to do them in fixed pairs like the pipes in the original Flappy Bird. I want it to be fairly random, so it just mix it up a little bit, but I want them to be sort of different kind of sizes. So for example, this one, the peeler, if I kind of make that a bit smaller, I think it makes sense that isn't going to be as big as, say, the lighter or the knife. And so I just want to have like different objects of different sizes to kind of give it some randomness. So in the original Flappy Bird, you just move, the position of the pipes, which basically carves out the path you need to go, and the way I need to do it here is have different sized objects and just sort of like randomly place them. So I'm going to have to experiment with that a little bit just to see kind of how it plays, but the next task of course is going to be to actually get these prefabs dynamically put on the screen so that Toasty, that's what he's called, the game's called Toasty Tumble, so that he can actually collide with those objects. I'll leave it there for this first devlog. In the next one, I go into all of the spawning of the obstacles, which ended up being fairly complex because I wanted to use a pattern called object pooling, and that introduced a bug that was very difficult to track down. So that is going to be in the next devlog. Thank you very much for watching, guys.